Looky there. We tried to get this done last week, but we'll get it done this week. That's my man, CEO of the Battle's End, Ingram Smith, and he joins us now on the Jeff Cameron Show. How are you, Ingram?
I'm great, Jeff. How you doing? Great to be able to catch up with you, and appreciate your flexibility of scheduling, sir. So
Yeah,
good.
buddy. Listen, we're
Good to
all
get a
busy
chance to
right now.
talk.
That's all right. You're busy right now celebrating, like the rest of us, a Florida State team that seems to have the pieces it needs to compete at the highest levels. And it's to the point where we have to complain about stuff kind of, on the margins. It's, by the way, I don't, it's a fine line. It's like, I think as a fan, that, and we're both fans, you and I, we just happen to have other roles. And I think what's interesting is, like, as a fan, I get the idea that you should just revel in these ass kickings we're delivering right now, right? Just revel in these wins. But then I think, like, for me anyhow, to provide other context is proper as well, to kind of say, look, they can be better. And I think it's a compliment to how good they are
Yeah,
to say they can be better. Would you agree with that?
yeah, I do. I agree with a lot of that, and I think almost Jordan Travis is a perfect representation of that. Jordan Travis has been very good. Jordan Travis has played at a level that just about every team in the country would jump at. But you and I have seen Travis have some practices where the ball doesn't hit the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
Jordan Travis has grown so much as a player that you almost want it for him just to show. And ultimately, with a guy like Jordan, you have confidence that super high elite level that we've seen from him is going to be seen. But yeah, I mean, hey, look, you beat a team in week one that for many people was kind of a dark horse candidate for national championship, and you beat them rather handily. And you went out and beat a team 66-13 in week two, and evidently we're back to the days of finding things to be concerned about because the third team kicker didn't execute the squib quick exactly like we wanted it to, or something like that. Now, obviously, just throwing out a hypothetical, bizarre situation there, but no, I mean it's a fun ride, and I think it's just ultimately reflective of the job that Mike Norvell has done, and how quickly this has happened. And certainly we're proud of the role that we've played at the Battle's End, but really anything that we've done has been a reflection of the foundation and footing that Mike Norvell had implemented in some of those years that weren't as much fun for people like you and I to come on and talk as friends as to what we've seen transpire in the first 2 weeks. You don't have to go back too far to find a rather disappointing week two in this program's history. So
That's for sure. And Ingram, you touched on something that I want to ask you about. I find it fascinating. In your role with the Battle's End as CEO, you've had the opportunity. It's required of you really to kind of get to know these kids and build a rapport and build relationships. Obviously, it's a different world that we're dealing with now, and there are opportunities for student athletes in a way that there never has been, which is awesome. And I wonder, I've known you for a while now, and I know how passionate you are about Florida State and how passionate you are about college football. And I kind of wonder, in this role, is it even more satisfying? Some people might think it's more stressful, but I wonder if is it even more satisfying because you know what a lot of these kids have gone through to get to where they are, to have opportunities like we see in the modern game and what's happened with the Battles. And it seems to me it would be even more satisfying.
it is more stressful and it is more satisfying. I would say both of those things are applicable. The first half of the LSU game was a feeling that I haven't felt in a while, and legitimately, like, mentioning to a friend of mine, like, these officials, what are we doing here? But no, it is more satisfying. And, like, to use an example, you and I have been at practice and we talked about, like, Darian Williamson, the player, and what
Yeah.
that guy can be if he's injury free. But man, I wish everybody in this fan base had 10 minutes to meet the person. Like, Darian is an exceptional guy who I've loved to get to know. Like Jarian Jones, very similar example. Jarian has a bright future doing something based off, selling and relationship building in the future after his football career is over. It's a really dynamic kid who, again, I wish more people could have 10 minutes to talk to. So getting to know these kids and to their families at a deeper level has absolutely made this more satisfying, and it's made it more. Also made, speaking from the Battles In perspective, has made it more satisfying because you're getting to work with some really great people. And again, I'm always going to circle back that's reflective of an incredible job of not just building the foundation that Mike Norvell has done, but also the evaluation that goes into, continuing to shape this roster and bring in large name transfers like Jaheim Bell and Keon Coleman and, a bunch of other people that have jumped off the screen in the first 2 weeks, is because that culture is in place, because that foundation is place. You're able to continue to be successful with this core group of guys that has made it available for you to have the year that you had last year and start to put some of that overly used phrase, proof of concept out there that's, made you even more attractive as you've gone on.
I've talked at length on shows I've gone on or my own show, just in talking to the listeners about how remarkable it is that foundation, as you keep alluding to correctly so, I think that has been set in a way that you could bring in talents like Keon Coleman, Mike identifying players and talking to them about their roles. It's one thing to say that a guy could come in and help your football team, and maybe there are opportunities within the world of the Battles In once they arrive on campus and sign up to be Noles, I guess. But at the same time, you've got to integrate that into your locker room. You've got to get guys to not resent other guys coming in from other programs and make it work seamlessly. And I know you've said to me before, just in talking, that you feel like one of the great assets Florida State has, and this is not to be a kiss up, none of us are that, but is Mike Norvell and the way that he goes about the process of identifying players and then eventually talking to them about what their role would be. Even if they're star players, the expectation is that they need to be able to be coached hard and driven and leaders and all these other aspects. And that makes the job of the Battles In a little bit easier.
I think we always fall back on two significant assets, and one is Mike Norvell and the job that he's done. And Mike, when I speak of Mike Norvell, obviously I'm speaking to the man, but also a much broader staff that is very, very talented and has really real key pieces of strength throughout that kind of coaching hierarchy. And the other is just Florida State University, the program that we're paired with. Florida State doesn't ever have to have like the shiniest, brightest, biggest NIL entity, but we do have to be there at a level that we can kind of contribute to Mike Norvell's climb, that we can meet the criteria for competitiveness in the modern kind of college athletic landscape. So we're real fortunate. I think one of those things is always going to be there. There's going to be, posters over people like myself, shoulder of incredible things that transpired in the past. And those memories are always going to be there. But Florida State's got something very real in Mike Norvell, and it's a unique opportunity here. And from an NIL perspective, from a Battles In perspective, we were able to come on and maybe throw a kerosene soaked piece of wood into a fire that was already really healthy, and just contribute to what the program needs from a perspective of competitiveness, and to be able to pair with Mike and his message in a most appropriate way possible.
What's possible for groups like the Battles In moving forward? I wonder about this space all the time. I look at it throughout the country. Luckily, I'm friends with you and can ask you questions about other collectives, I guess, for lack of a better term, that you've spoken with and people that are running them. And I know that, you've always looked at this as this is a legitimate function. This is something that we've brought things above board now. And the possibilities for the university, for the student athlete, and for groups like the Battles In. And I'm not talking about profitability and things like that. I'm talking about like where we can take college football. And I'm kind of curious also off the field, like with the Battles In, here's a direct question. Would the Battles In ever be involved in some ways or would they be allowed to be involved in ways of helping the game day experience? You know, for example, it comes up all the time to me, Ingram. This is why I'm asking. I'm specifically, along with anybody else who's in the media that kind of is lucky enough to work in this realm, you know, I have fans approach me all the time about, well, hey, listen, I wish this were better. I wish this was better. Everybody wants better. They also praise a lot of things that are going on. I thought the game day experience was better this time around than it was a year ago, at least in terms of getting through the gate. Um, do you guys ever foresee yourselves involved in something like that?
There might be something like that. I would say the most direct involvement we would have like that is just continuing to allow the sports that we pair with to be as competitive as possible, and that's going to continue to bring people into the space. Like I know you and I have shared, ticketing concerns and that
Yeah.
process, and that sound again. I know I didn't go and visit every gate, but that sounds like it was a much better process that was put in place. And I think the best thing that we can do is to go about retaining the players that this fan base has a deep emotional investment in, and putting out content that allows them to connect with them at a deeper level, and therefore makes it more likely that they're going to go to a game. And I think that's our part. And as people fill that stadium up more and more at a higher level of consistency, then maybe people far above my head feel comfortable making the investment necessary in things to streamline the game day experience as far as delays, whether it be concession tickets, whatever, and invest in other things. Now, the stadium, and this has nothing to do with the Battle's End, but the stadium's going to be going through a dramatic transformation over the next 2 years. And that will be both a process of excitement and also of patience, because that's just from, you see that thing play out in other sports and see that play out in soccer stadiums in Europe. And, sometimes a team plays with a 60% capacity or something like that. So that can be a little bit of a tough transition period. I'm not suggesting that's what's going to happen at Florida State, but patience will be needed there. But again, if we're able to retain the Tatum Bethunes and Josh Farmers of the world and people like that, then, maybe it's a little easier to put up with progress as you go through an experience like that from a facility upgrade.
I can certainly attest to that. As a student, I used to walk from Diffenbaugh over to my buddy Steven's place because he is a graduate of the FSU Film School. And when we were in school, because I'm old, Ingram, we watched the erector set turn into what this is now, which is a facade that is second to none in college football. I watched brick by brick that being built as I watched from 91, 92, 93, 94, this whole transformation take place. And it does take patience. But man, is it fun, because year in and year out, you begin to see the shifts towards a positive change, and hopefully enthusiasm follows for the product. And if you're winning, that's easier to do.
That is easier to do. Absolutely. There's a lot more patience there. And so that'll just be interesting. Look, there's a ton of different projects going on right now over in that part of the Florida State world, and between the stadium and the football only facility that is on track. I do believe it's going to be a period of transition. Absolutely.
Final thing I got to ask you real quick, Ingram. We've got a lot of football to be played. It should be exciting. This is a great roster. You alluded to it. Roster retention was a big part of what the Battle's End worked on in the offseason. And man, does it pay off as you look out on that field and you see a lot of kids contributing. How does the Battle's End? I get this question a lot. How do you decide, if that's the right phrasing, how do you decide who gets a deal with the Battle's End? Not to compare it to professional football, but I'm going to compare it to professional football. When you hear about a new player getting a contract in the league, we're like, oh, that team's investing in them. I think our fan base does that now. They go, oh, the Battle's in, and look, Williamson. Oh, look at this. They must see something in him. That's what happens with our fan base now. So take us real quick, if you could, if it's easy. How does this work? How does that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. One thing I will tell you is, like, for example, we've been working with Darian Williamson for a couple months now. We still probably have 15 kids that we haven't made a formal announcement of, and we've got those in queue. So it's not necessarily like game on Saturday, announcement on Tuesday or something like that.
It looked like it, though, didn't it?
It does look like it. I agree. So that's why I say that out there, and I've enjoyed the time that I've gotten to know Darian, and it's been more than 2 days. I'll put it that way. In part, and I don't mean to be shameless here, in part, the opportunities that we have are reflective of how many members we have. And as we continue to grow and and build up our level of support. So I will, ask your audience to give consideration to joining the Battle's End and to, judge us by the work that we've done and what we have plans on doing. It is, and you kind of referenced this like a question or two ago. It's not it's not global finance, but there is more to it than just like, hey, this, whatever level of production or what you think might come from a kid. We hired last week. We hired a guy by the name of Max Moody, and I don't know that name will resonate with a ton of your listeners, although he is a Tallahassee guy, Florida State graduate. But we hired him from Deloitte. He was a mergers and acquisitions senior consultant. That's more reflective of the type of people that are in this space. And, we're going to continue to try to approach this professional level and associate the really high level people that we've done in the levels of law and accounting, and with Max, with some of the interior structure of the business. And we're very proud, and not to shamelessly plug again, but I believe we were labeled perhaps the top functioning collective in the country over the last 6 months in that article. So we're going to keep trying to push the space here and find out how we can best live in it. And with that, Jeff, our evaluation process of how many kids we can be involved in and who we can be involved in is going to change as well. But currently think we have contracts with, or we have athletes under contract somewhere around 55 football players right now.
Nice.
So there's a lot out there, and it's reflective of podcasts like yourselves and YouTube shows, and you can just look and see the size of this audience. It is as large as almost any in collegiate athletics, and we're very fortunate to be able to go out and find marketing opportunities for our guys. And I know I didn't probably exactly answer your question, but it's a fluid process. This space has changed a lot over time, and it's going to continue to evolve. And we'll do our best to stay in the saddle and ride the evolution.
Loud and clear. Go to thebattlesend.com and sign up today so that we can continue to watch outstanding football be played at a renovated stadium in Doak Campbell and Bobby Bowden Field, right? Is that
That sounds like a great next couple of years, Jeff. Absolutely.
Get the 3/4 zip. Hey, listen, Ingram wants you to join. That's fine. You join. Get the 3/4 zip. It's sweet. That thing is the best thing on the market. I'm not even kidding.
Something that we're very proud of. Absolutely. And I can't remember exactly the factory we got it, but I assure you that other things that come out of that factory are far more expensive and aren't nearly as handsome on game day. So give the quarter zip a consideration as well.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, brother, good to talk to you. Thanks for the candor, frankly, and appreciate talking with you. I'll talk with you throughout the season.
Great catching up, Jeff. Talk soon. Love the show. Thanks, bud.
Ingram Smith, CEO, The Battle's In, thebattlesend.com. Go sign up today. Jeff Cameron Show continues in a moment. 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.